Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host. So great to see you all out there live. And because we are live, just remember, drop where you're from, ask your questions, give us positive encouragement in that chat. We love all of it. We are almost done. We're coming to a close for the month of January, which has been our Tech Showcase month, sponsored by Dragonfly. And what an incredible month it has been. So we started out with CEO of Dragonfly, Cameron Schell. Then we had Savannah Haran from the Phoenix Group, a senior robotics engineer. Just incredible guests. We had Michael Cohen, CEO from Key AI, talking all about artificial intelligence and how they're bringing that to take drone inspections to the next level. They were part of a Carasoft partner series. And today, we're actually starting a Volatus Aerospace Above and Beyond series. Now, if you guys don't know about Volatus Aerospace, I don't know where you've been, because while they're out of Canada, they've been everywhere and they are global. They're one of the world's leading providers of drone services and now advanced air mobility and everything else in between. Volatus has philanthropically endowed a number of companies across this entire year, so one a month. Companies that, like Volatus, are doing things that are above and beyond to elevate the drone and advanced air mobility industry. So our first Volatus Aerospace guest today is Kyle Sanders, the VP of Education and Development for US Drone Soccer. Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks for having me, Dawn. Great to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kyle says this because for those who've been kind of following what I've been doing with this podcast, we had a legacy podcast connected to Interdrone that was called Drones at Dawn. It was every Monday. And Kyle was one of our very first guests last February in 2021. So if you didn't watch that, go back and watch. And frankly, Kyle, you and I have been doing a lot of things together in the last couple of weeks. They've kicked off this incredible national campaign that we're going to get into. But if you missed, by the way, any of our podcasts, go to Drone Life TV and check it out. In Kyle's case, in US Drone Soccer, he was also a guest for UAS Colorado for our monthly meetup. So you can find that on UAS Colorado's YouTube channel. And of course, last week he was on our Clubhouse Drone Law Connections, and that audio is available for replay. So if you want to get up to speed and learn everything you could possibly learn about US Drone Soccer besides this podcast, go back and listen to some other ones as well. So Kyle, let's kind of start at the beginning, and I always do this, and most people just jump right into their companies, but I want to ask about you first. Okay, so like me, you are a veteran. Thank you for your service. United States Air Force. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey.
Yeah, when people say say thank you for your service, I always like to say you're welcome, citizen.
But you can't say that to me. So
yeah, you're welcome.
I'm one of those. I'm one of those 1%.
Yeah, and Dawn and I are both retired, and she outranks me. So first of all, I'm working with a great team at US Drone Soccer, and really respected internationally in drone sports. And I was brought in for my perspective coming from air education and training. I flew, graduated from the academy, flew C-130s for 11 years, came back to the Air Force Academy as an instructor pilot, where I got a master's in science education, and specifically outside the classroom learning. And as an Air Force officer, we're pretty busy, but my passion, my entire career, was working with school districts and students. At Little Rock Air Force Base, I worked with a lot of academic and outreach programs across the state, including running the state's largest ever science festival, where we had 20,000 kids come in a single day.
Wow.
Very proud of it, but education, and especially, science and aerospace education has just been a driving force in my life. And it all started when I was 12 years old at Space Camp. And I'm trying to make those kind of opportunities available to every kid.
That is so cool that you just said that because I know, Kyle, you're involved in Women in Drones, and US Drone Soccer is as well, a strategic partner. We just did our Women to Watch Global Awards, and April Lana from Colorado, right up the road, you know her well. She works with NASA, but she won this year's Unmanned Safety Institute Education Award as part of that Women to Watch Global Awards program. And I just recently interviewed her for Inside Unmanned Systems magazine, and she said the exact same thing as you, Kyle, that she was inspired early for STEM, and that's kind of her mission now, is bringing that to kids. And I think all three of us share that heart for education, and that's everything you're doing is so cool, and your background really plays perfectly in what you're doing now with US Drone Soccer. I want to get into the program, but before we do, because this is Tech Showcase Month, I'd really be remiss not to ask you a little bit about the technology behind this program. So just to get everybody up to speed, again, watch all of Kyle's other platforms and all of his other talks. But I'll give you the 30-second version of what US drone soccer is. I mean, it's literally a STEM program meets Harry Potter Quidditch, right? It's a competitive sport too. It's an e-sport. So really cool technology. And I think you've got even a little bit of a maybe, as we call in the legal world, demonstrative evidence maybe there on your desk. If you wouldn't mind showing us the actual drone and exoskeleton, and how tell us a little bit about the technology.
Yeah, long story short, drone soccer was introduced in South Korea, and it's a new drone discipline of the World Air Sports Federation. We were asked to bring this to the US and North America and beyond. And the first challenge was a technical one. How do you build drones for full contact gameplay, that they are ramming each other in midair on purpose? So the first step was designing this. It is
So cool.
essentially a 3-inch high performance racing drone that's been custom made for a high impact sport. And when I came on, I knew that this was just going to be a fantastic educational tool. Drone racing uses a lot of open source technology that students can really get in and take this thing apart and build it again. And so we designed everything to be modular. It all comes apart with a single hex driver, something a student can build from scratch, upgrade, modify, make their own parts. So there's a lot of thought going into it, and we spent about a year play testing with teachers and students to try to understand, what do they break, what do they need, into what we call in the Air Force, optimal stress. We want these students to work hard and have to learn a lot, but not be too frustrating. So some things that we added, we eliminated soldering, so they're all plug and play motors, things like that some of those roadblocks teachers are running into, just making it easy for them to adopt.
Yeah, I know we're going to get into accessibility and what you're trying to do to be inclusive with this esport and your company here, before we end this podcast, Kyle. But you also have some really cool automated goals as part of your system. And I remember last year during the Rocky Mountain State Games here in Colorado, Kimiko Chambers from UAS Colorado, we volunteered to help you with that. It was so fun. And that's when you really put those prototypes up for the first time, and they're so cool because they look like these glowing donuts, kind of these vertical donuts, and the drones fly through them. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then the cage that this the sport occurs in?
Yeah, the challenge was, it's a lot more than just a drone ball. It's all the peripherals that students need to play this game. So we had to source the radios, the chargers, the batteries, but then also design a custom arena to play this game inside of. And we worked with Tentcraft, which is a US-based manufacturer, and basically custom fabricated a drone enclosure that met the needs of this game. I think it meets the needs of most drone programs. It's a 10 by 10 by 20 foot, netted enclosure, and we had to really work with them on how do we keep the drones from getting caught the bottom border and some of these other challenges that we ran into in gameplay. And then the goals themselves, they're pretty large, and we want a hands-free, game. This is a esports, a tech game. So we've been developing an automated scoring system that will be able to count when the correct drone flies through the goal, reject all the other ones. So we designed basically an infrared system to be able to track which drones are flying through, and that software is in final stages of development after some great tests. And in the future, that scoring system will tie directly into our league management system. So as you're managing a game, you'll have a software enabled game management, and it'll track the stats for the teams as they play and go straight into their league standings and records.
That's awesome. We've got a couple folks chiming in the chat, and I really want to just do a quick shout out. Women in Drones, Kyle says, thanks, Kyle and Dawn, for serving our country. And like I said, huge fan and advocate for women in drones. And then we've got Kyle Bishop, who's saying this is an awesome way to teach and learn the tech. And totally agree, So Kyle, it would now be a really good time to roll that video to give a good illustration of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's something that's a lot easier to see than it is to imagine.
To describe verbally. Yeah. And
Right.
for those learners that are visual, let's roll that tape.
Welcome to Drone Soccer, an exciting new educational esport. Right now, the aviation industry is facing critical shortages in aircraft production, mechanics, engineers, and pilots. We want to make high-paying aerospace careers accessible to all students. This is the Saker DS200 drone soccer ball. Made with high-performance drone racing hardware by leading manufacturer iFlight RC. A carbon fiber chassis, injection molded cage, and no need for soldering. We've also sourced market-leading products from remote controls, tools, batteries, chargers, everything needed to get started in the sport. We spent a year playtesting with teachers and students to get it right. It had to be affordable, durable, and completely repairable.
It's just a great introductory program to get involved with aviation as a whole.
Help us bring robotics competitions into the space age.
Yay, I love that. It's so inspirational to see, and just to see those kids in action like I did. And I got to see them this Saturday too, by the way, Kyle, at Wings over the Rockies, Exploration of Flight. Your cohort and colleague Lena Paneros was there with some other folks, and you had it up, and I watched this little tiny girl very first time pick up a controller and fly that drone. And I'm bad with ages, right? But she was tiny and she could fly it, and it was so cool. So look, there are three major questions that everybody asks. In fact, our regular before you go is always in our chat, and we really appreciate before you go always coming and watching this podcast. Three questions. This one asking, what is the startup cost? So let's start with that one, because I know this is one of three common questions that you get. So number one, what does it cost to get started?
So let's start, personal and go to institutional. The total cost of participation here, we worked hard to make it affordable and line it up with traditional athletics. If you're going to go sign your kid up for Little League, what's the total cost of all that equipment and registration? And when we tried to match that. So everything needed for a student to play this sport is about $550. Obviously, global microprocessor shortages, we were trying to come in under 500, but we got as close as we can. But then stepping up, what does it take for, let's say that there's an arena in your community and you just want to get a team started. Well, a team is a minimum of 5 students, up to 10. And we recommend having 6 drones for the team to start. So that's 5 plus a spare. So all of the equipment is about $3,300. But with the training for the coaches and everything to get started, it's about $6,000 for a school or program to get started. A classroom to have a practice arena and enough drones to run internal scrimmages with 2 full teams, It's about $12,000 is the average purchase amount for a school, which is about half of other competitive robotics programs that are out there. So we're pretty proud that every student gets to have their hands on a drone and they're engaged the entire time. And then if, let's say you're an Air and Space Museum or a university or, you know, a nonprofit that says, we want this in our city, what is the total startup cost to run camps, to run a league, to run tournaments? That professional arena that you saw with the light up goals and everything, the total investment is $20,000. And we have profit sharing with nonprofits to help them sustain and grow their program. So those are the different levels. If you want to bring this to your city, if you're a company, or you want to raise some grants to do this, $20,000 is that total investment to kickstart this program. And I'll tell you, we put it into Denver as our test, and just immediately 6 schools enrolled. You know, that was right at the end of spring. And here in this fall semester, we had another 6. So just put in the arena and a dozen teams all jumped in. Some of these middle schools, you know, are buying enough drones to support 4 complete teams and run their own internal tournaments at the school. So it's just exciting, and we're proud that this is, you know, affordably priced compared to other robotics.
Well, and not only that, but you know, look, I've got 3 boys, and they've always been involved in sports, you know, and there's incredible parent booster clubs out there that assist with fundraising for these kind of efforts. There's corporations out there that are willing to philanthropically, you know, support things like this because it's so hugely important, STEM education, and then combine it with the excitement of a sport. There's 2 other questions that people normally ask you, and I want to hit those, and then I want to roll into the cities that you know, you started in Colorado, but I know you've expanded. You're in the middle of a national campaign. So the second question people ask you, I believe, and we got this on Clubhouse, several people raised their hand and said, how can I get involved?
Yeah, that's super common. You know, we are looking for those passionate individuals who care about getting students into drones and aviation. If that's you, there's a lot of ways. You know, we're being bombarded this week with those people who say, I'm going to bring this to my city. I will raise the $20,000. I will put this in. And so we're looking for that, but we also are looking for Part 107 drone instructors to be coaches and mentors. You know, part of growing this league, you know, when we say we're growing a league, what we're really doing is growing a network of drone instructors to help schools get started. Drones are hard to teach, and teachers don't have the experience yet, and they want to, but they need somebody that they can call whenever they get stuck on a problem. And so that's what we're doing. We're kind of growing that network of US Drone Soccer certified instructors, so that when we do get those questions, they say, hey, here's a drone instructor in your community, and they can answer that. So that's a big part of what we're looking for. And then, you know, we have some great opportunities this year with the World Games, with the Rocky Mountain State Games, with the first national drone soccer tournament. And so we're looking for, you know, corporate support for student teams to form and be able to attend these events. So, you know, sponsor a high school from your city, you know, or sponsor a tournament so that these students have a place to go and compete.
Well, and, you know, to the extent that there's these tournaments all over the place, you know, volunteer assistance also helps keep the costs down, right? So we can always use volunteers. I know that's why I raised my hand and was out there last July. We got a couple questions in the comments in the chat, but before we do that, I want to get to this third question that is your most common question asked, which is, if I want to get this for my family as opposed to for a school or for a large organization, or just a demo kit just to bring one to the school, how do people do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We are, you know, in the process of scaling and meeting demand from all of these schools, and we are prioritizing, you know, as a company, inventory for school and educational programs through the leagues. And we don't ever plan to sell this on Amazon, at least not for a long time. We want this to be through a league, so you go and sign up your student and they can play. And we think that approach, you know, wrapping this in an e-sport with the coaching and mentorship and leadership that comes with athletics, it makes it easier for parents to understand that they're not just buying a toy for their kid, they're investing in those skills. So if you want to get involved, we will be doing a limited, basically a limited run of direct to consumer sales, and that's helping us to fundraise more inventory for schools. So it'll be a online pre-sale on dronesoccer.us, so it'll be available in the next few days. We were looking at some other crowdfunding places, but they had rules against sports. So even though it's robotics, they were like, it's a sport, so you can't do it. Which I guess it is, and I think that's what makes this unique. So we're going to do basically a campaign through our store that you can buy your own equipment, buy demo equipment. A lot of teachers want to test this out and bring it to their administrators. This is a great way to do that. If you want your students to participate, if they're in an area that has drone soccer, this is a great way to get them started. And that will be live probably through the end of February. So that's your chance to get these pre-ordered so that we can ship them to you in the next month or two.
You make a great point, just having that one demo drone as an example to show the school administrators, because I think a lot of folks they're breaking into education with with drones are finding some pushback because people just don't understand the technology, and it scares them. I know I was talking to Colin Caffrey from Angel Hawk Drones here in Colorado. I know Colin, and his business, he'll be on UAS Colorado Chats next month on Clubhouse, but they film sporting events at high school and colleges, with their drones. And he said, he routinely has to go to administrators and kind of do demos in person and explain like, hey, here's the rules and here's how we abide by them. And this is the safety, mitigation measures that we put in place and things like that. So it is an uphill climb. And just real quick, just a couple comments out there. Number one, shout out for your great videos that you already have on YouTube, Kyle, with US Drone Soccer. So thanks for that shout out for his videos. Second, people are like, wow, that's like half the amount of money I would have guessed. And that's exactly right. I mean, Kyle and Dave, Dave Roberts, your CEO of US Drone Soccer and president, they're not looking to get rich off of this. They really have a heart for education and want to bring this sport to the forefront and train the next generation of our drone pilots and people in this drone ecosystem. We do have a question for you that kind of goes back to the technology portion of what we talked about, Kyle, which is the ball a drone that's in GPS or ATTI or ATTI mode, and all of the team members are pushing it and impacting it?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is a dumb drone. The kids build it from scratch. It uses Betaflight, which is a open source flight software in drone racing. So this is no GPS, no cameras, no sensors. It just has accelerometers, and so the students fly it in angle mode, so it will automatically return itself back to level the best it can. Once it takes a few hits, it gets a little off-centered, but they fly it hand flown. There's no apps. They're hand flying the entire time. So there is a lot of skill involved to make this drone perform. And there's 5 active players. Each student is piloting a separate drone ball inside the arena. And one of them is the striker that can score goals. Everybody else is blocking and defending. So, you can imagine 10 drones all crashing into each other inside of this arena. There's a lot of action, and it's pretty exciting. But yeah, we are forcing them to learn, the fundamentals of aerodynamics, of the software, of how to fly. So when they go out and move into their 107 professional training, they can build custom drones for industry applications. They can repair their DJI drones because they understand how it works. So it's a lot more under the hood than some of the commercial, off-the-shelf drones that schools are trying to use.
All right. One more question on the tech here from Rob Cranston out there. I'll get into the rest of his commentary, but he's asking, are you using any analytics software solutions bolted onto your platform at this time?
Yeah, so our software is in its final testing stage for the leagues management software that'll track a student's history through the program. We are, having some conversations with some of the analytics. And what he's talking about is, esports, which is video games,
Right.
have been adopted at the state level as a varsity sport. It's a difficult argument to make in some places that, what is the educational value of this? And so there are analytics to track a student's performance and growth and leadership and communication and teamwork and problem solving. So yes, we're looking at that to add on to our platform because, we see that the teamwork benefit to this, but I think that our case, it's very easy to show the real professional skills these kids are learning. And once you see them do it, they're a pit crew, it's like Formula One, that they're, as soon as they're done flying, they're over fixing, reprogramming, rebalancing the gyros, they're doing all this. And they only have a few minutes to get these things airworthy and repair all the battle damage. So it's a very easy sell for schools and organizations to see the educational value.
Yeah, having watched it firsthand, it's definitely coordinated mayhem, like you have the table set up with all the tools and all the parts spewed everywhere, strewn everywhere, and the kids like running around and fixing things and running back, and it's amazing and very high speed. And so people are loving this, like Desi Eckstein out there from Women in Drones. Good to see you out there, Desi. And let's jump to diversity a little bit, Kyle, because you talked about accessibility, pricing this in a way that lots of different groups can get involved. And Danielle Gagne from Volatus Aerospace, she's now their chief storyteller, formerly from Diversified Communications, says you're prioritizing diversity. And I know that you've worked hard to bring down those costs but with low income schools already making tough decisions, what can we do to support and get them involved? Now, I know, like in Canada, as an example, where Volatus is based, that you're doing exactly that with a not-for-profit that helps the Indigenous peoples there. So can you talk a little bit about this work you're doing in Canada and how you can really help those maybe marginalized and underserved communities and schools?
Yeah, we've been working hard in our test phase that the programs we've been testing this with are Title I schools. They are, youth engagement programs for some of those students and nonprofits doing that youth development work, so we can understand, what are their needs and what kind of a model can we offer that makes sense for how they support those students. $500 may not be a lot for some families, but that is a prohibitive cost, for most families. And
absolutely.
the reality is, in America at least, that if you want to sign your student up for any after school club, there's typically a $500 fee, and football can cost $2,000 to play. So it's expensive. We are working hard not just to keep the cost down, but in our strategic partnerships to introduce this program, internationally and at home, working with those programs primarily so that students from the beginning of this activity see that it is for them and that there is space for them at these events, And the second thing is we're helping organizations access grants. Here in Colorado Springs, I helped to raise $35,000 for the Boys and Girls Club so that they can have their program paid for. And the philanthropic support has been, pretty overwhelming because they see that the value of, what the students are learning. We are going for some major national grants to be able to offer scholarship programs for schools, prioritizing Title I and, girl-led teams. So these are things that we're doing, trying to keep that cost down. So what can you do to help those programs? Go to your community, go to your civic leaders, go to your foundations in town. The Rotary Club is sponsoring drone soccer in some cities. Go to them and say,
police departments, Kyle, police departments in New York.
Well, we're working with NYPD. They're going in through a big leadership change, and but NYPD is looking at doing this as youth engagement in their community. We've had everybody from the Air Force to universities to community colleges. There is support out there for getting students into STEM. Just have those conversations and show them what this is. And our hope is that schools and the community can cover the cost for the families.
Yeah, absolutely great. So much to talk about. And I know you started out in Colorado, and I just mentioned New York. So before we get to all the cities that you're expanding to in your national campaign right now and some of the global work you're doing, I just I do want to talk a little bit more about this diversity topic because Kyle, I'll be brutally frank. You know, other than Airspace Link, who just won the Women to Watch Diversity Exemplar Award at our Global Awards program, um, not a lot of companies out there are making it in an obvious way part of their culture and DNA. And you are doing that with US Drone Soccer, and I love what you're doing. I mean, you've stood up essentially a kind of a committee or working group. You've got members of the FAA involved, people from AMA, Women in Drones, DDNC, the Diversity Development Network of Canada that I work with, and Women in Drones. We just did that industry survey. By the way, if you haven't downloaded that summary, it's free. It's on the Women in Drones website. We have a diversity problem in this industry. We need to fix that. You guys are part of that solution. Can you just very briefly tell us about what you're doing to ensure, and when I say diversity, I'm not just talking gender. I know for you, it's the most broad definition of that term. You want everyone to be able to access drones and be inspired by US Drone Soccer. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in that arena.
Yeah, you know, we really didn't want this to be something that a year down the road say, oh man, we wish we had done a better job of making it clear that this is for everybody. So you mentioned, you know, our national engagement advisory group that has been really great in looking at this. There are a lot of organizations that have put reports together on, you know, how do you do it? And what really, there is a member of the group that, you know, we wanted to make a statement on how to do this, and not just, you know, we go to Title I schools and we get students from every background, and there still aren't girls on the team. You know, so it's a struggle. And we are going to Nigeria next week, and the U.S. consulate put out an economic development grant for 8 schools to participate in the first African drone soccer tournament. And 71 schools applied for that grant, just to show the kind of interest that we have. All girl-led teams. And that was a
condition of the grant, right, Kyle? A condition of the grant from the State Department was that these teams would be girl-led in Africa.
Right, girl-led teams in Africa, and either majority girls or girl-led, and 71 schools put together those teams. And that to us was such a wake-up call that, you know, we said, well, I don't know if we can do that here. And someone in the meeting is like, well, why can't we? Yes, we can do that here. And so on these national grants that we're putting together, we're going to include that prioritization for Title I girl-led teams. You know, that's an important part of our values, and we are making the statement right now, every team that signs up, that the code of conduct expectation is that they will field a diverse co-ed team, that they should show up at a tournament and have representation, you know, and that is a challenge we're putting to every teacher and coach involved in the program. And then also looking at best practices. You know, this is a youth organization, so we have to make sure it's a safe space. That means zero tolerance for bullying, zero tolerance for racism, zero tolerance for harassment of any kind. And so we have an anonymous reporting system, so that we can immediately address those kinds of situations as they arise and make sure that our students are safe.
That is, every time I listen to this, I know it sounds corny. Honestly, you give me chills. So much more to cover, not a ton of time, which is a real bummer. So you all are going to hear a lot more about this Africa tournament. I believe it's taking place next weekend, Kyle. You're flying to Africa like next week.
Yeah, I fly out a week from today. Friday and Saturday is the first African drone soccer tournament. Ino Umo at the Global Air Drone Academy, you know, brought this into Africa, and we have plans to repeat this success at other countries there. It's industrial skills that they're learning, but the game just makes it so accessible and exciting for the community. You know, soccer is the international sport the worldwide sport. And so people just immediately understand it, and it's easy to watch. And we think that this has a great potential to just really engage those communities and announce drone soccer internationally, through this tournament in Africa. The world came to a standstill with COVID, and so we haven't had any international competitions for drone soccer. So this is one that's kind of kicking things back off. And what a statement to make that, Africa's leading the way.
Yeah,
So
it's unbelievable. And just real quick, will people be able to watch that live, or will there be video and other coverage of it after the fact so we can see how it went?
yeah, live streaming will be a challenge, and it's their first tournament, but we will definitely have
Some kind of
video and
reel?
recaps.
Yeah,
And I'm taking one of our instructors, Kisan, who's been working with kids here in Denver, and
he's awesome.
we're going to run. I don't know if we're refereeing or what we're doing there, but we're going to be on the ground and excited to show what these students have accomplished in just, I think, 2 months in the program. And they built them from scratch, and I'm excited to see how they do.
So you got the Canadian group you're working with, Indigenous peoples, you've got the African group internationally. Now, drum roll, please. You're going to have a world stage in July in Birmingham, Alabama, as the first, drone soccer demo, at the World Games 2022. Super exciting. So for everybody out there, if you don't know, the World Games, let's just call it kind of the mini Olympics. It's like the precursor to the Olympics. Oftentimes sports that are showcased there, like, by the way, lacrosse. I have a lacrosse family, whoop whoop, and a drone soccer family. They will play there, and with the idea that they may someday become soon an Olympic sport. And as esports go, I know your parent company, Drone Sports USA, I believe it's called, will be running the Drone Racing League the first time there, and you guys are going to be demoing drone soccer in Birmingham. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the World Games started in the 80s, and they're affiliated with the Olympics, and they take place in between the Summer and Winter Olympic Games. And so this is all the sports that were not chosen in the Olympics are vying to be in the next Olympics. And so the International Olympic Committee comes with future host nations to say, what are we going to pick? Obviously, I think it was Tokyo last year. They had skateboarding for the first time. So this is a important event for the World Air Sports Federation. They're trying to push drone sports to the highest level of international athletic competition. This is the first international drone race from the World Air Sports Federation on U.S. soil. It's the first esport in the World Games, and drone racing will have, I believe 36 different pilots, both male and female, from maybe 16 countries. I'm bad at the numbers. I should have them written down.
No worries.
But this is exciting. We'll have a U.S. Male and female pilot competing, and we are producing that drone race. We're very proud to be working with the World Games to produce that. It's going to be fun. And then we're doing the drone soccer demo featuring student teams. So just to showcase to the community what drone sports can mean, and trying to elevate drone sports internationally to the same level as these other major athletic organizations.
It's going to be unbelievable. I'm so excited for all this. And let's kind of come back to the United States for a second, because we talked about this global reach and now this global stage with the World Games. But you obviously started off in Colorado. You and I are both here, woohoo, Colorado. And that's where you kind of did your, essentially the test bed, as you mentioned, Denver, and a whole bunch of schools jumping on board. And of course, we have Colorado Springs as well, and some of that. But let's talk for a second about Ohio and New York, because I know these folks have actually signed up, and Tony Reed with Drone Cadets is a driving force behind the New York group, and some other folks out there. So if you could just briefly, we only have a couple minutes left, so much to cover. Briefly tell us kind of what's going on in New York, what's going on in Ohio, and then what do you see as next for this national campaign?
Yeah, I mentioned we're looking for organizations to lead the charge. We have fantastic partnerships in several places that are planning statewide rollouts. CNY Drones has been running, statewide drone competitions in New York, and they are leading the charge along with Tony Reed at Drone Cadets, and I mean, I think it was 10 at last count, different organizations that are adopting teams or educational programs, universities that are hosting. So it's really been exciting to see the response. In Ohio, Extreme STEM has been doing Vex Robotics and BattleBots, and they're jumping all in with drones. And so they will be rolling this program out statewide in Ohio. This week, I've had conversations with some other statewide organizations that say, we want it in this state, we want it in that state. What do we do? So we're excited. In 2022, we expect to see state level competitions in Colorado, New York, and Ohio for sure. Those are already planned. And we will have the national tournament, first high school national tournament in Denver, Colorado on April 30th. So
okay, I didn't even know that, Kyle, and I need to be writing that down because US Colorado, I'm just telling you, at least as the current president CEO, we are all in for that.
Absolutely.
So
it's going to be great.
30
It'll be at
April.
Westminster High School, and we will have the state tournament on Friday for all of the Colorado teams, which there's a lot. And then Saturday, the top teams from Colorado and those teams from out of state will all compete in that first national tournament. We'll do our best to live stream and do all of that. For programs, there's a lot of summer camp programs. We will do the similar thing at the Rocky Mountain State Games. That'll be an open tournament for all teams in the summer. That'll be July 30th and 31st in Colorado Springs.
Yep.
So lots of opportunities to compete. And as we see more adoption, the goal is to have enough teams in your community that they can play against each other as a Friday night event, just like every other sport.
Absolutely. And I just wrote some notes. That's what I was doing because I'm in for both, buddy. Just so you know. All right. We literally have just like a couple minutes left. So what I want to do, Kyle, is give you maybe a minute or so to kind of do your summary, how people can reach you, and then we'll kind of transition into kind of what's next.
This is what we hope, an avenue to grow drone education nationally and internationally. If you are in the drone space and you care about how these drone service companies or advanced air mobility or aviation in general can meet the workforce need, 2-3 years from now, those people don't exist. They're in high school right now. And if we can get these drone soccer programs going, these are the students. I'm already hiring some of these 16-year-olds that got their 107 and they want to coach. Like, yes, this is how we meet the need 2 years from now. So I would encourage you to look at your future workforce development needs and sponsor a team, sponsor a school, get involved. A lot of times education is an afterthought, but just, Dawn mentioned a little bit of the response from the kids and parents. It's powerful. This is a real sport to them, and they are dedicated, and they're doing whatever it takes, organizing their own teams, their own practices, lobbying the state for support to do the league. You give them a team to join, and this to them is what they want to do in high school. So let's create these pathways and get it into more communities. Contact our team for whatever you need to get started. Let's fundraise and let's get that support to make this easy. And if you're a school or an educational organization or anybody that wants to get involved with us, go to dronesoccer.us/enroll. Send us your information. It comes straight to my team, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We're a little backed up right now just because it's been a wave, but we're making plans for the rest of the year of who's coming online. So let's get you in the pipeline and plan when we can launch in your area.
I can't wait to see it all. And Desi Eckstein just sent a reminder that Kyle will be on the Women in Drones Coffee Connection. I don't have the date, Desi, so if you could go ahead and throw that in the chat, that would be awesome. I believe you also may be featured on Women in Drones Africa at some point upcoming, and possibly on Bronwyn Morgan's Zeocast podcast. So articles coming out, lots of things going on with drone soccer. So stay tuned, be engaged, get involved, and like you said, reach out here to Kyle. So Kyle, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And again, thank you, Volatus Aerospace, for your leadership in this space and basically endowing companies like US Drone Soccer that are really going to make a difference, like Volatus, in this industry. So thank you so much. And this is a wrap for our Tech Showcase month. Thanks again to Dragonfly for sponsoring this entire month and the theme of Tech Showcase. We are transitioning next week to dual-use technologies. Now, for those that don't know what that means, Kyle and I do. Being military, it means this technology can have military and civil or commercial applications. And so we're going to showcase that for a whole month. Northrop Grumman is sponsoring that month. They will be our first guests next week. We've got Major General retired United States Army Kent Savre and Colonel retired U.S. Army Rob Menti from Northrop's Armaments Division. In fact, Rob is going to be on our clubhouse tomorrow, so check that out. Every Thursday, Drone Law Connections, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to start kicking off that month of dual-use tech. So it's going to be spectacular, just as this past month was. So we are 1 minute over, and I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you again, Kyle, and this was awesome. It's a wrap. Fly safe.